Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. My name is Nolene and my student ID is S11244-509. I'm here today to talk to you about cultural influence on identity. The main line of inquiry is how do cultural factors shape an individual's sense of identity in contemporary society? To what extent do Pacific Island cultural influence have a more significant impact on personal identity than individual choices in contemporary society? And so far, the unpacking question is basically on analyzing cultural factors and contemporary society by giving the 2 points in the core reading and discuss Pacific Island cultural and contemporary society by list example to support the given 2 points. As stated by the question Jill Chesklin, entitled by Playing Up and Playing Down, Cultural Identity, Introduction, Cultural Influence, and Cultural Reliability. The main idea that I found in this reading is people change how much they show their culture depending on where they live. Cultural identity isn't fixed. It can shift and change over time. And culture affects how we act and how we saw or see ourselves. And everyone showed their culture differently depending on the situation. So in this reading, it talks about how culture shapes identity but doesn't look at personal choices or specific culture specific. So now I hand over the time to my sister right here.
Hello again everyone. I'm Grace and my student ID is S11244-126. I chose the first core reading as my main reading, written by Manuela and Anne 2017, because it's really connects with Kiribati, especially the relationship between young people and their identity. And so the main idea that I have found in this reading is that Pacific youth feel more happier and stronger when they are stay connected to their culture through things like language, song, and music. For example, school programs that teach Pacific history and values are not just the performances, but it's kind of way of helping you to stay connected to their roots. And in this reading, and it also explains the challenges that living in places like New Zealand, it can be a tough or difficult because many Pacific people or youth feel pressure to change how they speak, they wear, and they live in order to fit the New Zealand society. But in this, and it can leave them feeling caught by two different cultures, and also it can lead them to lose confidence and forget who they are and where they come from. So I'm finished, and now I hand over the time to my sister here. So thank you.
Hello again. Well, thank you very much for listening for our first two presenters. So my name is Kadena Dikir. My student ID is 11243564. And my part in our group, I chose second core reading. From the second core reading, Totally Revolving Identities of Pacific Islanders by Elijah Lemusi Fiawali and Dion Enani, published in 2021. Examine how Pacific Islanders living in Brisbane, Australia navigates evolving shaped by colonization, migration, and Western expectations. Terutama, a traditional storytelling method, the other highlights that cultural heritage, like language, ancestral practices, and community, remain central to self-definition. Participants describe their identities as hybrid, intersectional, blending traditional value to resist stereotype and maintain cultural pride. For example, a young person from Kiribati may feel torn between Western norms and a traditional Kiribati custom, but their connection to heritage helps anchor their sense of self. The Fijian poem terms Tuatan meaning new or extraordinary, symbolized this dynamic transformation, showing that specific islander identity is not static, but continually shaped by culture, community, and resilience. That's all from me, and waiting for another presenters. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dera Yoteba and my student ID is S11243601. So now I'm going to explain core reading 3. So according to Feoko study on Whaikawa in New Zealand, it demonstrates the significant role culture plays in shaping the identity of Pacific youth. It described the Whaikawa as a kind of cultural classroom where New Zealand-born Tonga males come together to strengthen their language traditions and values through shared activities like storytelling, debate, and song. It is not a yangona, but it is a place for entertainment, for cultural sharing of skills and knowledge. The Whaikawa is very important as it gathers young and older people, and unites them to improve their culture for future generations and keep their ties to their heritage, family, and community alive. One example is when Tongan youth sit in a Whaikawa circle singing songs, they are not only enjoying the music, but they are also practicing the Tongan language, remembering their ancestors, and keeping their heritage alive.
My name is Flavio and my student ID is S11242580. The fifth book was Personality and Person Perception Across Cultures, written by Yanti, Clark, and Juris, which explained that culture strongly shape identity, personality, and the way people see others. The main task is to understand how cultural values influence who we are and how we are perceived. From the book, key ideas can be found. One major point is the difference between individualism and collectivism. In individualistic cultures, people focus on independence and personal goals, while in collective cultures, people value family, community, and group harmony. Another important point is self-concept. People in different cultures describe themselves in different ways. For example, someone from a Western background may say, I am creative, while someone from a Pacific culture may say, I am a daughter, a Fijian, or a shared member. A third idea is perception of others. Behaviors such as eye contact or silence can be judged differently depending on cultural values, which affect how people form impressions of one another. When reflecting on these ideas, the most useful ones for the topic are the contrasts between individualism and collectivism, the influence of culture on self-concept, and the way cultural values affect how people perceive others. These are central to explaining how culture influences identity. To organize these ideas for an essay or presentation, I will first explain the difference between individualistic and collectivist cultures. Then discuss how self-concepts is shaped by these values, and finally show how people's perception of others may across cultures. This structure is clear and easy to follow. Finally, applying this knowledge helps in real life. For example, at USP local, students come from different Pacific islands and sometimes from overseas regions. Students may see identity more collectively, valuing family and community ties, while international students may focus more on personal independence in group works. These differences can affect how students communicate and how they perceive each other's behavior. Understanding cultural influence on identity can therefore help students respect differences and work for better together. To conclude this, cultural influence plays a powerful role in shaping a person's identity because it guides how people think, behave, and see themselves in society. Our culture provides values, traditions, languages, and ways of interacting with others, which all become parts of who we are. While individuals may change or mix cultures through experiences such as education, travel or migration, their cultural background still forms the foundation of their personality and sense of belonging. Understanding cultural influence on identity help us respect diversity and appreciate why people may view the world differently, yet still share common human experiences. This response effect answers the question, which is how do cultural factors shape an individual's sense of identity in contemporary society? To what extent do Pacific Island cultural influences have a more significant impact on personal identity than individual choices in contemporary society? By showing how cultural factors, especially the contrasts between individualism and collectivism, shape identity through self-concept, social roles, and perception of others. It highlights how Pacific Island cultures with their strong emphasis on family, community, and island culture and traditions tend to have a deeper influence on personal identity than an individual choices, even in contemporary society. While modern influences like education and globalization introduce more personal autonomy, Pacific cultural values still plays a dominant role in shaping how individuals see themselves and relate to others, especially in settings like USP local. That's all, and thank you.